Hi, welcome back to our third book club reading. We are reading The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss, and this section, we are going to be reading chapters 54 through 61. And then we're going to be having a discussion. So, yeah. See you in the video. All right. Okay. Chapter 54, A Place to Burn. He's lucky he didn't get thrown out for saying that. Jeez.
Yep.
All right. This chapter summary starts with, quote, "Jittery as a teenage whore. What the fuck?"
Mm-hmm.
What the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why would you say that with your face?
Yeah.
Cloth. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Yeah.
Rothfuss, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I had to put down my book and come back to this.
Understandable. Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to think about the things that makes me think of.
Yeah. Yeah, because that has a lot of connotations.
Ick. It's like dripping
the big
with ick. Anyway. Alright. Kvoth goes to the Aeolian and ingratiates himself to the owner by accident. Ambrose, but he does it on a whim, as if something like he's never done that before, but he just had the idea that he should do that. Suddenly,
I thought it was a cute idea.
It's the perfect idea for when something needs to be done perfectly, exactly the way he did it. It came to me in a dream. No. Ambrose appears with a lyre, because he's a liar.
He's a dirty liar.
And he causes Kvoth much anxiety. Kvoth plays and gets lost in the music. Very beautiful chapter, except for the teenage whore bit.
Yep.
Kvoth plays and gets lost in the music, and an unseen woman sings with him. A string breaks, but he finishes the song anyway. Successfully. And he gets his noodles.
His shiny noodles. With this chapter, I liked the description of the actual performance itself, because you would summarize it saying like it's a very beautiful performance. Like it was I could feel like these feelings that Rothfuss is describing, and I thought it was a sweet, like I was like, oh, who's the mystery person who's singing with Kvoth, and that adds some intrigue to it.
It's the masked singer.
Yeah.
Or the voice. I'm not sure. I don't watch reality TV.
Yeah, that's fair. I watched The Masked Singer a little bit. It is okay.
It is the show ever.
It is the show ever, yes. And I thought it was a nice introduction for the owner of the Aeolian. But I fully agree with what you were talking about with just like that one line that he compared to, and that was when he was is that when he was talking about like seeing the other performers and he was like comparing them to something? I think.
No.
Some analogies. I don't remember what
he said. So he talked to the owner and was like, "Hey," or whatever.
Yeah.
And
then
Simon,
yeah,
was like, "You can't do that," and he's like, "Oh, Simon, you're jittery as a teenage whore." It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's like,
and I honestly, I when you like, I remember coming across that and being like, but I think again, I was like just trying to like I was doing the like I was reading it and kind of being like, I'm gonna just kind of skim this because I didn't want to think about it. But when you brought it up, I was like, oh, like then I was like, oh yeah, that has some connotations. I really enjoyed the I said it before, but I really enjoyed the description that Rothfuss gave of just like, Kvoth, who is our main character, playing his heart out and has an idea that he's going to play a song and he's going to sing for it, and then someone from the audience would know the ladies part of the song and then they would sing. So luckily he's able to, that actually does happen.
He did have the
And
testicular fortitude for that shit.
he did. The testicular fortitude. Oh god. And yeah, and it was fun. So at this point we don't know who, at this point in the chapter anyway, we don't know who is singing with him. She just knows it's from the audience. And also this was a good chapter as a follow-up to something else that happened in a previous chapter, is that when he's playing, his lute breaks, his string snaps, and he's like, oh, and he like is caught off guard, but then he tries to play anyway and gets through it.
I'm actually like a mega mind over here, so I can do anything. I remember now. Wins. In fairness, that wasn't out of the blue. He did have a very good reason for knowing how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, he thought back to his childhood of just learning how to play with.
But I shall continue to meme on him.
And in that chapter, when after the string breaks, he thinks about, he's like, it wasn't tampered with. The strings shouldn't have broken because I've checked them, like they should be in good condition. And I believe we learn in this chapter, and will help me out with this.
Also,
one too.
He said it was a clean break.
It was a clean break, yeah. Like it was so it wasn't like a fray or anything. It was just straight. And so, and then the chapter talks about how Ambrose, who is like his enemy more or less at this time, is almost in the Eloian, and is watching him. And then after his performance, he like kind of comes out and he's like kind of shivering and shuddering a bunch, similar to like what happened with the other kid in the previous chapter when losing the body heat, suggesting that he is the one who fucking cast like a sympathy
more
thing.
Than
and
suggesting.
Then
pretty much
yeah. So now they've got a vendetta. But they talk about that in later chapters. But yes, overall I liked it. I thought it was a good chapter. I want to see more of the I forget his name, Threep. Count Threep. I thought he seemed kind of cool.
Guy Threepwood.
I
Guybrush
also
Threepwood.
thought of that too. Yeah. I was like, yes. Count Guybrush.
Count Guybrush. You know, I only just hearing you say it aloud, I only just noticed it. Because I was thinking like Threpe or something. Or
Threpe. Fair.
I don't know. I don't really pronounce things in my brain when I read them usually.
Yeah, fair.
Chapter 55. Flame and Thunder. Kvoth makes the audience cry in a chapter so short I thought my pages were stuck together. Next. It's less than a page. Like
Is that not the one? Really? Okay.
55.
I guess I don't remember that. 55. I thought that the next one was when he meets with the person. No, he doesn't.
Nope. There's like a two paragraph chapter. Maybe.
Okay. Well, then I have nothing else to say. Good job, Kvoth.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's backwards, but
yeah. Not on my stream.
It's so short. It looks like it's block quote.
Yeah. Fair enough.
All right. I don't have anything to say about that. He made everybody cry.
Yep. Everybody felt it was just looked up and everyone was like, felt. Yes. Thank you.
Chapter 56. Patrons, maids, and methamphetamines. Kvoth is showered in praise and gets lots of money and a bit drunk. He thinks Ambrose broke his string with sympathy. He looks all over for the woman who sang with him and finally finds her. And I said, I was thinking the woman here might have been Auri, but now I'm not so sure. That was
because he.
I was just trying to remember. I feel like it would have. He said, "I'm going to introduce this woman," and then immediately mentioned Auri.
He said he was going to introduce this woman and then went to the Auri chapter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting.
Although he does say she's at the Eladon, but that doesn't mean she couldn't have somehow ended up there going through the sewers or whatever the fuck.
That's true.
But then again, why would she be allowed in there if she was a sewer rat?
True, yeah.
I don't know. It was just a thought of mine. The only woman I can think of, because there's like 3 in the book.
There's more in this section.
That's true, yeah. He added a bit more, but I think that's at Best's best.
Yeah.
He did actually say there's not enough women. Add more.
Yeah. Best is like, hey, Reshi, what the fuck?
I like
meet more women.
I don't think this is true, but I'd like to believe that when Rothfuss's editor told him things he needed to change, he just made Bast say it.
That would be great.
Just quoted his editor through Bast.
Yeah. He sets it up. He sets it up. He's like, I'm going to introduce this woman. Anyway, we'll get into that. But...
yeah, it's like 3-4 chapters before he actually does after saying it.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that. Okay.
You see why I got annoyed.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
Anything to say? I mean, I think the drink sounded really nice. Cool spring honey, clove, cardamom, cinnamon, pressed grape, burnt apple, sweet pear, and clear well water.
Ooh, that does sound good.
Yeah, like I said, it's like an aromatic
gin.
I don't know about the gin part. Just it's like a really, really fruity spiced brandy from the sounds of it.
And Count Threep also approaches him in this chapter. Count Guybrush.
Count Threepwood. This is the chapter where the lady comes and talks to him and is being all suggestive, and he's like, cool, nice to meet you.
Yeah, cool, bye.
Bye. Your voice isn't like, the one I want to hear.
I don't have time for your voice. You're not the one.
Begone, beautiful woman.
Stop crying around me. Oh,
get away.
Yeah, doesn't he also say at some point that like so many women came up to him and it's like, oh, that was me, and he's like, cool story, I gotta go. Bye.
No, I think he imagined that, or either that, or I don't remember that,
or maybe he was just too drunk. That would be funny. But it
was a fun chapter that didn't really do much. It was just people.
Yeah.
It was
kind of like a slice of life chapter. Like it was just kind of going around and talking to people and.
All right, chapter 50. Snakes.
50 snakes.
50 snakes. No, 50 snakes was the last one. 57. 50 Stephen. Chapter 50 Stephen. Interlude. The parts that form us. Bast tries very badly to describe Denna. And I said I should have guessed it was her, damn it.
Yep.
And then Kvoth also struggles and makes Chronicler remove a line and gets really mean.
Yeah, he gets specific.
And then I say, honestly, I wish Rothfuss would move on. This is starting to upset me.
I guess it was a good chapter to get into like his Kvoth's like psyche a little bit, or his memory, because like he was trying so desperately to be like, how do I describe her? This, and then he was like, wait, no, not that, and you know,
he convinced himself she was impossible to describe, and then tried to describe her.
Yeah, good job, buddy. You tried. But what I liked about this chapter more so was honestly Bast's working off of Kvoth and his attempt at a description, because he would be like, yeah, she was beautiful, she was fair, you know, she had these wonderful gorgeous eyes, and Bast was like, she had a crooked nose.
Well, he first started with, she has perfect ears.
Yeah. Bast was like, oh yeah, very perfect ears. And like we learn more about that in the next one, but I like that it wasn't just Kvoth trying to just sit down and describe it, because like Bast had met her. I was like, oh, that's cool, I didn't know Bast met her,
so she comes back.
Yeah, at some point. when they've met, I guess. I don't know if we'll learn how they meet in this book. It might be the second book, but
I've been thinking about that, and I don't know for sure, but he said it was going to take exactly 3 days to tell the book. To tell the story, and there are 3 books.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's going to be each day is a book. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he actually did confirm that somewhere. I think I remember Aries telling me that. So. And this was also the chapter, one of the few chapters we've seen where, like, Kavoth gets a little hostile.
Yeah.
Like, just around, like, he's like, she didn't have a crooked nose. You shut your whore mouth. Like, hey. And then he was like, no, Chronicler, you can't take it. And he, like, physically just, like, takes the page and just rips it from him. And he's like, keep just that part.
I think he has some anger issues. I was wondering if maybe that was what Bass was afraid of. That if he thought too much, it would make him angry.
Yeah.
You wouldn't like him when he's angry.
He's hulking out. Yeah.
That's the sound you make when you turn into a Hulk. Also, I spilled tea all over my pants.
No.
Red tea on nice khaki pants.
Fun. Yeah. I think that's mostly what I had to say about the chapter. Like, I liked the back and forth with him and Bast. And I guess it gave more to Kavoth's character. But also, holy shit, he takes like 3 chapters to actually tell who it is.
Oh, I know. And then he just tells it as an aside.
It's like, oh, it was this person. And I went, oh, okay.
He didn't even say that it was this person. He just referred to her suddenly, like he usually does. Yeah, he says some stupid thing about flickering fire and light catching our eyes, and what draws you to the fire is the warmth you feel when you come near. The same was true of Denna. Like,
right.
Whoa. So you're saying that was Denna, or are you talking about? He could have been just thinking back to Denna. She was like that too. The way he said that is just very annoying.
Yeah.
Rothfuss. Where were we?
All right, shall we?
Oh yeah, complaining
continue?
about Rothfuss.
I enjoyed it.
Chapter 58. Names for Beginning. Kvoth and Denna exchange playful banter, but it seems like she doesn't remember him. He soon finds out that she had come there with Savoy, fucking Savoy, and they exchange names. She tells him her name is Diane. Ugh, why do our authors always do this? I need to go to bed before I upset myself and trigger an episode.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
So I really liked their interactions. I thought it was very cute. I was like, this is good.
And then he fucked it up. It was wonderful and perfect and beautiful, and then he fucking tossed a wrench at their head. Ugh, I hate that.
Yeah.
Just let it be normal.
Yeah, and it's yeah, the Savoy thing, I was like, oh, okay, so we were saying this earlier, this is the lady that he was probably going to see earlier for a date. And it's this lady that he's seeing. Well,
this was also months ago that he said that he was going to go for a date. So that's why I wasn't sure.
True. It could be anyone. I took it to mean that. But if it's, I mean, it could just be she might just be a fling thing. They seem to like that they were pretty close-ish for when they went to the alien.
Enough that Savoy is like eyeing him dangerously, like, don't touch my girl.
Yeah, like, hey. And I was like, Savoy, my boy, no. But I did actually like how there wasn't a point in the chapter where Kavoth, like, in telling the story, was just like, oh my god, Denna was with Savoy, my heart was broken, I had to get her back from Savoy.
He didn't mention it.
No. And he probably should have, not should have, he probably would have if he was thinking that, is what I mean. I don't think he was. I think he honestly was just like, I'm so glad to see Denna, and he probably wasn't even fully processing, like, what was happening. Other than that, he was like, because he kept mentioning constantly, like, he's my friend. I don't want to do anything to my friend. And I was like, okay. good, but it just didn't seem like he was already immediately going for like, I've got a vendetta against Savoy.
Guys with hair like this have 100% chance of stealing your girlfriend.
Me versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. Savoy. Yeah, I thought their interaction was sweet. I think she recognizes Kavoth, and she said her name was Diane. Maybe that is her actual name and her nickname is Denna, but we know her as Denna, so but Glow
feels
also
like she's a completely different person. I was wondering if it's maybe her sister.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, she seems a little, now that I think about it, she did seem a little bit less like
hip.
Like she was very wise for her age in earlier. Yeah.
A little less of a
less hippie.
He does
and
say
maybe
she looks like she's grown up as well.
Yeah.
So maybe it's her older sister.
That would be kind of funny.
I kind of hope that it is now.
Maybe. But she did kind of have a bit of, like, the way she spoke kind of reminded me, like, of, I mean, like, it was a similar bit, so I was like, oh, maybe. But I think she, like, if she's alone with Kavoth, I think she's gonna be like, okay, one-on-one, I know you.
But they were
It's been a hot minute.
And she...
Well, they were also in a public space. Like, she might... And she also ran at him really excitedly the first time, and she had to stop herself. She was like... And then she, like, stopped and, like, held her hand against her chest because she, like, almost barreled into him, and then she held at her hand.
Yeah, but she was, like desperately looking for him because she was singing with him. So that doesn't necessarily mean she recognized him from before. He's on a stage. Everyone was looking at him. Everyone knows what he looks like.
That's true, yeah.
Besides, he's the only person with red hair like that in the Two Rivers. It's hard to miss.
The Two Rivers. We've been really good about that. I think I know that's one of the few times.
That's like the third time, maybe.
Yeah. Let's see.
All this, chapter 59. All this knowing. The boys get drunk to the sounds of Rothfuss eloquating.
True, correct. That is the correct answer.
Yep, that's it. That they just walk back home drunk. That's the whole chapter.
I should mention, I didn't mention it in the previous chapters, but I meant to. I really liked Diok. I know we don't know very much about him. He's the guy who was like kind of like the bouncer, more or less.
I like him.
Yeah, he just seems cool. Yeah.
He's like just a big chunky bro.
Yeah.
Diok.
And I love how he's just like, oh yeah, ask Diok. He'll know where the girl you're looking for is. And he goes, Diok, what about this girl? And he goes, oh, like, I know why you want to know. And he goes, no, I just want to. He's like, yeah, sure. Like, I'm like, Diok.
Chapter 60, Fortune. Kvoth antagonizes Ambrose and by telling him he has venereal diseases, and then tries to go looking to find Diane, to no avail.
Right. Uh-huh.
He pays Devi, and she offers to let him read her books. And my headcanon more than that. Primo. He gets back his job with Kilvin and gets a residency at an inn to play his lute for money. Actually, no, for money and for room and for board. Yes.
I think this was the chapter with the Diok thing, but because that's what he's asking for around for Diane. So I was like, nice. I also meant to mention this in another chapter. We talked a bit about how, like, Glow had brought up a little while ago about how they were like with Savoy, like, I know what you are, like, because it's suggested that it's like, oh, it's some romantic thing with him and Simon.
Yeah.
Simon also reacts when Kvoth meets Diok for the first time, because he tells Diok something that's a little bit like brazen to like suggest, like, it's like, let me in or something, right? And then Diok's like, I like you, tiny person, come on in, right? You know, he goes in. But like Kvoth had made a comment to say like, Simon looked looked uncomfortable
Yeah, and he
about the
said,
two of us talking,
"Wow,
and I don't
Simon, you
know
look
why.
jittery as a teenage whore."
Well, yeah, that was after, but before that, I was like, oh, does he have a crush on Diok? That'd be sweet. But I didn't act on it. But
Oh, maybe.
that was just something it was like, oh, he was a little, because Kavats had worded it to say he seemed uncomfortable about the whole thing, and I didn't know why. And I was like, oh, okay.
In chapter 58, I forgot to mention that he
Mm.
that he got hit on by two random guys.
Oh yeah, he's like, thanks.
I put this in the chat, but I thought it was actually hilarious, so I'll say it. So I had the night before reading this, I had sat down and I had done some writing, and I wrote a scene involving two of the main characters sitting in a tavern in or whatever, and then a woman comes up to them and basically hits on one of one of my female characters, main characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally the next day I read that. And it's like Rothfuss, did you like travel in time and read my mind?
Life imitates art. That's pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. And it was a fun chapter specifically for this one about like or not fun, but like it was nice to know that, like, you know, it was a nice chapter for more interactions with Debbie, which I'm always happy about. And
This is
him
when
getting
she's
around
like,
and playing.
we're like, oh, okay, she's like actually chill. Like
We're
she's
buddies.
like perfectly
Yeah.
happy to be his friend kind of chill, not like
Yeah, she's like, yeah, play
chill.
me a song, and he's like, okay, takes out his lute. Yeah. Yeah. It seems it's like a chapter that are just like, hey, things are looking up Kavoth, even though you can't find Diane, quote unquote.
Something funny in fantasy when it comes to playing music is whenever someone plays a jaunty tune or anything like that people like, they dance and clap along. That's not something normal people do that often in a one-on-one situation.
No. I see that a lot more in like anime, weirdly enough.
I mean, that's
like
what
if,
Debbie
like there's
did.
a girl being like, yeah, she like clapped along. And
like you mean visually.
Yeah. Oh, visually, yes. Yeah, that's what I meant.
But it just made her seem even more like a young child.
Yeah, and that's why I was like, I mean, I felt the same way about Auri too. I was just like, there are very young character actions that these people are doing, but I know that they're not that young. So it's just interesting. I don't know. I don't think it wasn't this chapter. It was an earlier chapter, because now I'm just remembering things that I'm like, oh, I should talk about this. But I was thinking about like when he is playing more often at these taverns and inns and getting room and board. Before he goes out and do that, like he does all that, he speaks with hello cat. He speaks with one moment, just gonna get the cat off my screen. Sir, come on. Hold on. Go this way.
He wants to be part of book club.
You want to be part of book club? Here, you can come into my lap, dude. Come here. There you go.
He wants to read.
He wants to read. There we go, dude.
They pay me to read, not to read.
They pay me to read. I was gonna say that like Master Kilvin had said like, oh, metal lasts longer than music, or like metal is immortal or something. And then Kavath being like, well, no, metal can rust, metal can break down. It's music that's like forever. And then he answered and said like, one of us would be right. And I was like, okay. I don't remember which chapter that was, but that was around the time when he was starting to play more. It was that
chapter.
It was?
Chapter 60, yeah. This made me like your boy Threepwood even more.
Yes. Oh, yes. Correct. Yeah, he was like, yeah, I'll be your patron. Chill. I was like, fuck yeah.
Actually, no, sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was the next chapter.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Hi. Speaking of which, chapter 61, Jackass. Or Jackass. I said the appearance of the Doctor signaled catastrophe in the next act, which seems prophetic.
Yes.
Kvoth and the Count, otherwise known as Guybrush Threepwood, write a song about Ambrose called Jackass Jackass. It spreads all over the school, and Kvoth is reprimanded. And then Ambrose tells all the inns in town that they should turn him away, and he ends up staying at Anchors, which is a lower establishment bar instead. He also tries to appeal to Loran, who basically tells him to grow up.
Yep.
And then he immediately pulls that shit.
Yeah. I was like, oh,
and then he ends the chapter with, and then Ambrose tried to kill me.
And that's where we're ending.
End of the reading.
Yeah. Makes me wonder as to if that final, so then he crafted an apology, a really seething, like, stupid, ridiculous apology, and worked with his friends to post them up everywhere with extremely sticky, solid adhesive.
Magic adhesive. I think it's runes or something.
I think so, yeah. And then he ends the chapter by being like, I wonder if that was part of the cause for the reason Ambrose tried to kill me. And I went, oh.
I just had a thought. With his point about conservation of energy, sigildry doesn't make any sense.
What was the conservation of energy thing?
That it's a law.
Oh,
you can't just create energy.
True.
So if all you're doing to say stick two things together is drawing a rune on them, where's the energy coming from? Something's got to hold them there.
Well, so how wouldn't the energy be there anyway? Like, it's just a written form of the verbal.
You think it's just it's just sympathy? Oh, maybe.
Well, I think it's just the physical the physical or the material, I guess, method of sympathy. It's just another form of it. It might be easier than verbal. I don't know.
I don't know. It feels cheaty. On Yeah.
Jackass was like a fun little. I was like, oh, okay, like they're just poking whatever fun, and then like Ambrose gets back at him by saying like, oh, don't let this man play at your inn because he's bad news. But I think the next couple chapters is gonna be.
It was the worse than that. It was, don't let this man play at your inn, or I'll tell everybody that you suck, and nobody will come to your inn.
Right? Yeah.
It was threats, not.
Right.
Advisement.
Yeah. And I'm thinking that, keeping in mind that he doesn't stay at the university the whole time, I'm thinking this might be the point where he gets kicked. Like, whatever happens next is maybe going to be what kicks him out. Maybe.
He needs to get into the archives before he gets kicked out.
True. That's true. Because he needs to get to the copper door.
Yeah. Unless he sneaks back in somehow, but...
That's true. He still could.
Maybe through the sewers with our...
Yeah, because now he's got Auri, the Moon Fae friend. Who just is a friend of his.
The randomest Moon Fae who he doesn't ever think about. This is normal.
I just want to know what the moon significance is. Like, I just have all these questions that are popping up. The moon, it's full. I just have all these questions that pop up, and I mean, I know we're actually, maybe I should wait a bit till we get into discussion, but the chapter was amusing, if nothing else, but again, felt like a bit of a setup chapter. Although the Anchors Inn, the owner of that seemed very sweet. I liked him.
I don't know if sweet is the right word.
Well, nice. Like, he didn't really care. He was like, well, I'm kind of a not super popular in anyway. Come on in.
Yeah. He struck me as a complainer kind of guy.
Oh.
Like I'm just gonna complain about the royalty. Fuck the
Mm,
royalty.
yeah, yeah.
All right.
Discussion.
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 Time for discussion.
So yeah, overall thoughts. I liked this section more than the last one. It was also a very different reading than our last reading. I felt the last reading was more focused on telling lore and maybe a bit of world building, like talking about cultures and different things there. And this one just more or less mainly focused on Kavoth's time at the university and like meeting more of his masters,
Yeah.
more I guess on more personal levels, and also Ambrose being a dick. Uh, and yeah, and we get more female characters because I will stand by Devi. She's fantastic.
Devi's Bay.
Devi's Bay. My overall thoughts are nuanced and yet succinct. What are we talking about again? The name of the wind.
The name is to wind.
What a wind. There still was like there still are a lot of like the little smatterings of like the weird
Ick.
over sexualization ick. Yeah.
Every section increases an ick to the point where section 4 is going to be gross.
Yeah, I hope not, but yeah, it's interesting. I'm gonna try to pay attention more to like so I'm not I'm gonna try to gloss over that less because sometimes I just forget them and then I'm like, oh,
you don't have to. Feel free.
I would like to because I want to be aware of them. That's all. Not to say that I'm gonna be looking out for them constantly, but I'm just gonna be like
10 years ago.
Mind.
Less than that.
When was the book written?
7 years ago. It
was
2008, right?
Yeah, 7 or 8. Like it's old. It's how old is that? That's like 16 years ago. Was it old enough to be excused for its ickiness?
No.
No. Well, cuz like what else? I mean, I didn't really read many fantasy or any fantasy novels around then. But Name of the Wind was older. Like that was written and that has far less ick. Barely any ick if I remember right.
Then what? You just said Name of the Wind.
Oh, I meant Wheel of Time.
Oh, okay. Oh, there's no.
Sorry.
The only ick in Wheel of Time is actual like horror ick, like
yeah,
like body horror.
Yeah, and there's kind of like uncomfortableness with like the training of the
He does a fairly good,
but there's a reasoning for it. Like he gives a good reasoning. It's just uncomfortable.
So a good example I can give of using ick correctly is episode 4 of the Wheel of Time, when Egwene is being washed by the White Cloaks.
Yeah.
It was icky, but it didn't make me feel like it made me feel appropriately icky. I cannot honestly explain. Like, it wasn't sexual at all. It was just like,
yeah, it was because it was the White Cloaks. If I mean for Guru, if you might not know, like they're very not okay. They do some not great stuff.
Some fecked up shizzle.
Some fecked up stuff. They hunt the
magic users.
And that's like their specific kind of goal.
Well, sort of.
Well, part of it anyway.
They hunt dark friends who they claim all Aes Sedai are dark friends.
Yeah. And it's very like religious imagery with them.
Oh yeah, so... they look like straight out of Crusades.
Yeah. And so the main character is in a vulnerable position being washed by some of the white cloaks, and so you're like, ugh. But it's not like a
It's
I don't
it's a
know,
very
it's
good way to show how awful these people are and how
yeah.
awful the situation
Without
is. With
without them going to the extent of like, assaulting her or something.
it was all the more worse for the fact that it didn't feel like they were doing it because they wanted to, but because they genuinely thought she was unclean and needed to be
Yeah.
cleansed.
It goes back
Like
to
it
their whole
was.
ideology. Yeah. So like when we're talking about Name of the Wind and being like, oh, could it be excused for that time? I don't really know what else to compare it to for the time it was written. I want to say no because I mean
Game
it's
of
not crazy
Thrones
old.
stuff came out.
Was it around then?
Uh, the first one came out in '97,
Okay, so it
but
would have been
the
the
last
time
one still hasn't come
period.
out.
Yeah, because Martin's taking his sweet ass time.
Actually, I have one right here.
Okay, yeah, sure.
2011. No, copyright 1996. Cover art copyright 2011.
Oh, I see. So I mean, it's in that period, and this one was 2007, 2008, around then.
And Last Wish came out in '93, but it was translated in 2007.
Was Last Wish the last one? Oh.
First Witcher book.
Oh, got it. Yeah, so it's a mark of like 90s, 2000s. And I wouldn't say like again, I really wouldn't say this is like smattered with it. It is throughout, but I wouldn't say it's to the extent maybe of Game of Thrones or The Witcher.
Oh yeah, no, it's not egregious. It's just like
No,
you
it's just
didn't
there.
need to do that.
Yeah.
It wasn't essential to the story, or it isn't essential to the story, and it just doesn't feel good.
And it always just happens to, well, often, if not always, just happens to be women. So it's like,
Well, it's the easiest
yeah.
low hanging fruit, if you will.
I was just thinking about how there are other moments in this book where I do appreciate like when uncomfortable things are brought up and then like and they're intentionally meant to be like like it very clearly states this is not okay. And for most of the book it also says that. But um it is good to see like even if Kavath is kind of seen as like the savior occasionally, like
He sees
it's
himself
still
as it, so
yeah, and well he's telling the story, right? So he will that like he'll go and try to like help out a girl who's being like kind of bugged by Ambrose or like in the tale of
the question is, did he do that for her sake or because he hates Ambrose?
Yeah, and it's probably a bit of both. And because I mean, Kabat does kind of come across, at least in the book, of how he tells it himself, is that he, when he recognizes something not good happening to good people, he'll probably step in and just be like, I'm gonna help out a little bit, but not for everybody.
But if he sees someone he doesn't like being stabbed in the street, he'll be like, oh well.
That was my overall that's been my overall thought. So like occasionally like having that stuff come up, it's like it doesn't really add to the story unless like aside from a few other times where I do appreciate it being there. I did like the inclusion of just more female characters. I am interested in this Diane versus Denna thing. As
At
well
least
as Allery.
one of the female characters wasn't a love interest.
True, and I hope she stays as not a love interest because she is fantastic.
However, this book does not yet pass the Bechdel test.
It does not. That is correct.
Not even close.
No. Well, Debbie never mentions anyone, right?
The Bechdel test is two
Or
women,
is it just with women?
Two women talking to each other, not about a man.
Not about a man. Oh, okay. Yes, and Debbie hasn't talked with another woman. Fair enough. At least in the
Ever.
book.
in her life.
Ever. She's never talked to a woman.
Yeah. Book.
So
distracted.
What about your overall thoughts of the section?
Yeah, I agree. It was... I don't know if it was better than the last section, per se. But it was certainly different.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that was mostly because it was entirely set in the university when he has a friend group and is sort of going about his life there. Also, he aged up real fast. Like, he went from being a kid on the streets to, like, a few months later acting like an adult. And I don't know if that's just because that's the way he was written or if that's intentional. But
well, because we got a bit of that of him, you know, within, because it was a few months since he like arrived in at the university, and in the last section, so he was still about that age. But he was more in the university in this section.
I think he was technically the same age when he left the city as he is now.
Yes.
But it doesn't feel like he's the same age. It feels like he's a lot older.
Yeah, in comparison to him and Torbayan, yeah.
Yeah. Like, even when he was doing his whole like fucking around with the clothing people.
Yeah.
Or even on the trip there.
Yeah, true. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I didn't really think about that. But yeah, he did. I feel like that's going to become more apparent too, because I feel like we're leading into something really dark happening, and that's that's gonna fuck him up, I think.
The appearance of the Doctor signals catastrophe in the next act. I didn't actually explain that when you read through. So that reference is in one of the, or when he's talking to Lauren about trying to get back into the archives. He says that the way that suddenly he stands in a certain way or whatever, and he thinks that Lauren reminds him of the character of the Doctor, not the Doctor from hit BBC television TV show Doctor Who, but the Doctor is in like a character in a recurring character in like Edimaru plays.
Yeah.
And apparently the appearance of that character signals catastrophe in the next act. So he appeared,
I think I missed that,
if you will.
Yeah.
So that signals. I'm perceiving that as he's using foreshadowing. He might just have been. Why would he have mentioned it?
Yeah. I think I totally like missed that, to be honest, like that line. So that's fair.
Like, there's no way he would have mentioned that if it didn't mean something.
No, I think everything that most everything that Rothfuss like brings up once or twice at least is usually something that's going to come back later.
The catastrophe could have been the Ambrose stuff, but I doubt it. That wasn't a catastrophe. That was annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, like him.
But he did say that Ambrose tried to kill me next.
Yeah, so that's probably part of it. And I like, it's gonna, something with the archives is gonna come back. I am really interested to see what is actually behind that door.
I know what's behind that door.
You know what's behind that door?
Yeah.
What do you think is behind that door?
The moon.
The moon.
Yeah.
Just a whole moon.
The actual moon. But it's also in the sky. It's confusing. It's metaphysics. It's in two places.
Yeah, I'm curious about, like,
it's bigger on the inside.
Like, what's, like, the moon is a symbol for a lot of things in here, but I just it's leading up to something, and I just don't know what. Typically,
the moon is the symbol of the butt crack.
Thank you for that. I appreciate your kind. You're just wise, extremely helpful, and knowledgeable words. I am blessed with this knowledge. Yeah, no. Apologies for derailing things. Oh no, not at all. I think we're both kind of at the
we
point.
derailed ourselves. Don't worry about it.
And I mean, I was just saying, like, I did think about like some themes to touch on this weekend. I mean, we talked about what I think what I wanted to talk about. I did not think of as many. Like, I had more questions than like, oh, these are discussion points. Like, I had a question about Ari. I had the whole question with Diane and everything there. But we've discussed everything that I could think of right now. So that's just me, though.
Most of the things that I had to talk about or cared to talk about, we talked about in the chapter summaries.
Yeah. And that was our third reading of The Name of the Wind, where we covered chapters 42 to 61. Thanks so much for watching.
Next time, we are going to be reading chapters 62 to 76, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then we'll be having discussion, and that will be our penultimate reading, too. So, for this book. And then we get to figure out which book we read next. So that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
Maybe
and also, we'll have a name for our book club by then.
Yeah. And also check for the YouTube video if that's something you are, if that's your thing, you know? Like, you're into it, you know? A little bit.
A little bit. Thanks so much.